Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Pivot or Die. Today we have guest Mike Fata. Hey Mike, thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
One sec, I'm going to introduce you. Mike is a multi-passionate entrepreneur. He's an investor, he is a speaker, he's an author, and he's also an advisor and mentor. He also has a podcast. I might be missing something. We can get into that though, but there's a lot going on in Mike's world. He's had many impressive moments in his career, including a 9-figure exit, and his investment portfolio of CPG brands includes the infamous midday squares. It's hard to pin Mike down, but if I had to, I'd describe him as an entrepreneur and an influencer who pursues a life without limits. There's a lot of entrepreneur investor types out there that promote a hustle and grind culture. Mike chooses to motivate through wellness and health. I actually first found you through LinkedIn and your podcast. Would you relate to the idea that you are an influencer? I know you like the term mentor. How do you feel about that term?
Yeah, influencer. Influencer, newer word, right? I think I consider myself a mentor because I think it goes beyond influence, either one-on-one mentorship or some of the mass mentorship programs and things that I'm doing. But either way, I just like sharing the healthy message and inspiring personal, professional growth. And so thanks for having me.
What would you say you look for when it comes to the companies that you're investing in?
You know, I've highly simplified this over the last number of years. And investing is, I like investing in products that I have in my house and I enjoy on a regular basis. So mostly, natural and organic food products, but products that I eat and or consume on a regular basis and my family likes. And then meeting with founders and enjoying actually spending time with the founders and strategizing with them and, celebrating with them and hanging out with them. And so those are the two kind of main things I look for outside of, a strong business with good growth potential, good growth margins, and just a lot of runway in front of it. But I'm not a startup investor. I've been a startup entrepreneur, and it's very, very tough. And so I like to join businesses when they have a proven founder product market fit, and they're ready for more venture stage investment and rapid growth.
I definitely relate to that. Startups is a grind, and I feel like there does come across when we work with clients too. It's much nicer when people come to us knowing what's working and what they stand for, and it's really about elevating and pivoting them up to that next level. What brands have come to you that you have seen and helped facilitate the biggest pivot and leveling up?
A lot of businesses that start out, a lot of entrepreneurs start out, they want to be something to everybody. What I've learned, and usually where I get involved with the business, is they're at a stage where it's the exact opposite. It's more of a focus on their product selection, focus on their core consumer or customer, if that's retail distribution partners. It's usually more focus at that stage that allows the scale, the growth, the strong growth in the business. But again, every company is different. I've had the pleasure of mentoring brands that are small, just starting out, getting their first $100,000 in sales. And I work with businesses that are in the tens of millions of dollars of revenue, and they're going for the $100 million revenue mark, and so different strategies and tactics for different stages of the business. But that more mature company, it's definitely about a focus.
When it comes to shifting their strategy, who have you experienced advising through like the biggest shift, most drastic shift to either their market positioning?
A lot of times, if I'm showing entrepreneurs how important it is to strategic plan and how they plan. I'm a big believer in having a growth plan, and it's really about developing the skill set for planning so that you can do it more efficiently. And if you're doing it more efficiently, then you're doing it more often, because you realize when you grow a business to $100 million at that scale, companies are reviewing their strategic plan on a constant basis, a deep dive into it quarterly, a review of it monthly, but even into their weekly senior leadership team meetings, it comes up and those threads of the strategy and tactics are there. And a lot of younger entrepreneurs just don't haven't seen what good looks like from strategic planning and a reporting and a meeting structure and cadence. So first I try to educate on that, why a weekly meeting is important, who should be involved, what things you should cover there, how that ties into monthly, more in-depth financial review meetings, and then quarterly, a full strategic planning session. And then when you have that system set up and you're practicing it after several quarters, a year or two, you can start to get routine at it. And then you're more prepared for rapid change. What if you have to restructure the business because you learned something new in the market, or there was a black swan event that affected your business? You're much better prepared to go through and revise the strategic plan and then turn it into an execution plan.
We actually leveled up through the EOS system. I don't know if that's something that you follow. It's kind of based on scaling up and that kind of thing, but that's a cadence that is taught in that as well. Are you part of that, or is that just something you kind of picked up over your years?
Yeah, I'm not. I think I'm familiar with it because I've seen it, but just a growth planning technique that I've learned, or assembled different things that I've learned over the years and have my own kind of touch to it. I also like to really think kind of departmentally, the growth drivers, the strategies and tactics, and by sales, by marketing, by operations, by finance, and then having the capitalization of the business kind of separate to that as well, or included, as a fifth, and having that structure when you go into a strategic planning session.
How deeply involved do you get when it comes to making core decisions? It sounds like you're building this structure, which is so important for, like you said, making dynamic shifts really quickly and efficiently as a team. When it comes to key decisions, how involved do you get in that with your?
Well, I'm not involved
companies?
in key decisions, or I'm not responsible for key decisions with the portfolio companies as an investor. Obviously, when I was growing Manitoba Harvest, and I was a CEO, I was responsible for all the final decision of the business. But as it relates to the portfolio companies, it would only be my semi-involvement would only be in the companies that I actually have a advisory or a board role, which is probably half of my portfolio, where I'm either advising the founders, or you an example like Nuts for Cheese, where I chair the board. In that capacity, my role is of governance as the board chair, it would still be the recommendation for whatever, budget recommendation, strategic planning recommendation would come from the CEO and the management team. And it would be a board approval on certain items. But in saying that, I've been an operator for 20 years, so I can work with my CEOs and founders to help be part of the strategic decisions and discussions. But the decision would be had at the management team.
Do you approach it similar to mentoring?
Yeah, I think mentoring, advising, both of those don't have a governance role as fiduciary responsibility for the business. So they both do the same thing. I would share a lot of times what good looks like. An entrepreneur that's grown a business even successfully from, up until kind of $10 million hasn't lived that path of what it looks like to grow a business from 10 to 100 million. The team structure may need to be like, what the customer planning would be different than at a small scale, marketing campaigns, product innovation. And so, I would be showing them and helping them see what world-class looks like, or what good looks like in that process, and then maybe helping to bring some resources to the table. But the senior leadership team would always control the plan. It's they're the plan owner.
What resources would you bring in that case?
Well, whatever's needed. I mean, we created a great mass mentorship tool with fatafleischman.org, Greg Fleischman and I. So we've given all of our forms and tools and templates for, from financial planning to projection models to investment presentations to HR documents, from hiring and onboarding and recruiting and terminating, all the way basically through the business. And so usually it's a system or a process that needs to be learned. Maybe the tools or templates need to come along with that as well. Sometimes it's a relationship, and it's an introduction to
Yeah.
to a service provider or to a customer or someone that's in my network. So it's different depending on the business. I just like to be helpful. So
yeah, no, it sounds
I
like you bring a lot.
I'm a pretty quick study for where a business is at and likely what the growth plan is for it, and then the resources that are needed to accomplish that.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of resources to bring to the table. In that way, when brands are looking for an investor, what do you recommend that they would look for?
Yeah, it depends at the stage of their business. I say the gold standard for me, and not everyone can do this, so I understand. But if you could bootstrap your business to proven fit, and again, that's different scale for every business, but say $1 million in the consumer packaged goods business. If you could bootstrap your business to $1 million in revenue, you really open yourself up for a clear path for different investment opportunities. If you're smaller than that, even and you don't have capital, it's best at that stage to be looking to raise capital from people that are really close to you, like your friends and family, maybe some angel investors that are in your local community, because those people are generally going to give the entrepreneur an investment, the money, and maybe a little bit of support, local support, but not have a whole bunch of red tape to it or reporting or legal. And so, it just all that stuff takes away from the focus of actually growing the business. And so that would be the best approach. And even through like $1 million of revenue to $5 million in revenue, angel investors and friends, family, sophisticated investors that are close to you are usually the best. And institutional investors, if you can get to like a $5 million revenue run rate, that's probably more of the right time for an institutional investor. And the thought of formulating putting together a board of directors, having all the reporting that would go along with having a formal board and institutional investors. So if that's the gold standard approach, I think if one has the means to execute that way.
When you bring up $1 million mark, $5 million mark, how important would profitability be when it comes to what an investor is looking for over something like market share? Or perhaps I know not even just profitability on cost of goods sold, but in terms of overall, including marketing, everything that they've kind of done so far, what one is more impressive or important to you? Profitability or higher revenue?
Well, it's always a balance. The answer is you can't grow if you don't have capital. So you could be growing as fast as you want, but if you run out of capital or working capital, the business can suffer and go bankrupt. So, there's always a responsible in between that. I like to think that growth, when you're growing, you're creating a lot of goodwill on the balance sheet. And then when you can unlock that goodwill and turn it into equity dollars to feed back into the business to grow more. So that's the ideal situation. The challenge is if you get yourself in highly leveraged or you're burning too much capital and then you can't raise and you don't have enough runway in front of you, especially in times like this, then the business can suffer from that. So when you're just starting out, you always want to make sure that you have 12 months of capital, probably working capital, to execute the growth plan that you're trying to achieve. And then as the business is growing more rapidly and gets a little bigger, it's probably 18 months of runway, cash in the bank to be able to execute your plan.
If a company was highly, highly profitable and maybe just under the 1 million mark versus a company that was not quite profitable but really exciting and had a $5 million revenue, what one would you pick? I guess it's a hard question, but I don't know. I'm just curious to hear.
It depends on the circumstance. I think there's a lot of different factors, but from the top, growth is number one. The revenue is number one. From there, gross margin, and if the business has a sustainable gross margin. In consumer packaged goods, you need at least 30% gross margin, but I would say at least 40%. And we were successful at Manitoba Harvest because we created a true 50% gross margin product, which supplies a tremendous amount of dollars to use in sales and marketing and general and administrative. So if you have strong growth and you have a strong gross margin, then you usually can control that tap on the bottom. And so analyzing and assessing a company that's in that situation, it's pretty clear that, they're spending, but they could be more profitable if they choose to, if they have a good growth and good gross margin. I look at that approach. And it's also like how their revenue is made up. Ideally, you hear, and especially in consumer packaged goods, you want to be an inch wide and a mile deep. You'd rather be selling like in 100 stores in your home city, and doing very, very well there. And if that's the case, then it's a pretty easy line to draw to say, well, how you can go to the next city over and get into another 100 stores there, and replicate the success. It makes the assessing the scalability as an investor easier, instead of being like selling in hundreds of stores across the country, but none of them doing that well.
Yeah. So okay. It's a key indicator of scalability that you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to, at first you want to have founder product market fit. And then after that, you want to replicate the success. That's the easiest approach to take the least amount of risk out of the equation, and be sure with where you're investing those working capital dollars.
And by founder fit, you're referring to what you were talking about earlier, which is, you want to be able to hang out with them and understand that they're a good fit for you.
So we hear all the time on product market fit. What I try to educate people on is there's also a founder product fit and there's a founder market fit. So, the founder product fit is why is the founder doing this? Like what's their why, and is it strong and connected to the product? I think that's really important. In my case, you hear my story. I lost over 100 pounds, and I went on a no-fat diet. But then I learned that hemp seed it was the richest source of omega-3 and omega-6, the essential fatty acids. I fell in love with hemp. That led us to starting a hemp food business. My founder product fit was very, very strong. Okay. So I look for that in business. I think it's important. I think it's important for entrepreneurs to think that way. And then similar founder market fit. How much does the founder understand about their core customer and their market? And that like great example would be, that you're not going to get a vegan that starts a meat company and then there be a good founder market fit, right? But if you have someone that, especially in the natural products industry, maybe someone that is a celiac that starts a company and it's a gluten-free company, then they have good founder product fit. But they also probably have good founder market fit because they'll understand other people, whether it's celiacs or people that have allergens or other sensitivities to them, or special diets like their plant-based diet or they're doing keto diet. They'll understand that market, and so those are just as important as product market fit. And so I look for that and try to I was just on a call earlier trying to explain that to some entrepreneurs, because that takes it really brings out like that why, the passion of like, why are you doing this? And are people going to understand why you're doing this? And are you going to understand the market and the product enough to be excellent at it?
There's so many ups and downs when it comes to entrepreneurship that if you're just in it for the money, there can be times where things dip, where you take a risk that doesn't work out, where a risk does pay off. And then it's not going to make you feel very good if your whole emotion is tied to that one aspect. It's better if it's like resistant.
I'm not a
resilient.
Big believer in entrepreneurship just for the sake of capitalism. I think there's bigger risk to fail there. If you're going to do that, maybe you just want to have a job, because then you have you can work and you can get a paycheck. I hear too often entrepreneurs tell me, "Oh, I'm starting this business. I'm gonna grow it in 5 years, and I'm gonna sell it, and I want to have the success that you had, Mike." And that's usually a turnoff from an investor, because I'm a big believer in if you grow a good business, if you're passionate about something, you're not going to be satisfied with anything but excellence, and so you're going to keep working at your project, your business, until you make it excellent, and hopefully even larger than that, and go from excellent to world class. Then you're going to have every opportunity around to potentially sell that business one day or capitalize on the business, but it's because you came from it, from your why you're doing it, and you're putting all that effort there. I just think it's a much healthier way for entrepreneurs to check kind of why they're doing something. Is it really key to them, or are they doing it just for the money? If they're doing it just for the money, they're probably not going to get over all the hurdles and the brick walls they're going to have to jump over and run through on that entrepreneurship journey.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Your why is so important and it's such a big part of your journey, as you mentioned. You went through a significant change in your life.
Lost over 100, probably 120, 125.
Yeah, incredible.
It seems to have corresponded with your success. I'm sure you feel the same way. I feel like I've been through a similar journey with weight loss, but it was about 40 pounds that I had lost, and I actually have gained quite a bit of it back in this last year, and I'm back on that like weight loss journey again. I'd be curious to hear your perspective on how your presentation to the world and how you kind of carry yourself, how has that impacted your success?
I think it's everything. I put out there to the world that, being a entrepreneur, because you have to, I'm naturally an introvert, but I've made myself more extroverted because in entrepreneurship, you have to put yourself out there to customers, to consumer, to the media, to your employees or team members. Like, you're just constantly putting yourself out there. And if you don't feel good about yourself, it's really hard to put yourself out there. 10 times harder to put yourself out there. And so when you take steps and actions, and I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship, is being an entrepreneur is like being an athlete. You have to sleep well, you have to eat well, you have to train and exercise hard, you have to keep yourself mentally fit. You have to have all these routines because if not, entrepreneurship can just eat you up, like trying to make it happen, and you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And if you don't have that, if you don't have that foundation of health, you can get yourself out of sorts really quickly. But if you do have that foundation of health, and we see it a lot in the natural products industry, literally former athletes or people that have been, in some kind of athletics, or people that bring themselves there because they had a healing journey or a weight loss, you just get a tremendous amount of confidence. The better you feel, the more confident you are, and then you can go up on stage literally, or put yourself out there in a room, or just introduce yourself in the elevator to someone that may help your business out, right? And you have the longevity of that. So I'm a big fan of health. I keep myself, I'm a constant human guinea pig on myself on finding new things, new ways of living healthy that make me a better, more effective, happier, healthier human being.
You said you're a converted introvert to extrovert. I find that interesting. How'd you get there? Because the weight loss is a big part of it, but
it's just practice. It's an exercise. I think in my head, I'm naturally a finance-minded person. Even though I dropped out of high school, my mom was an accountant, so numbers come very easy for me, or they have. And so I was always like the back of the house kind of thought of finance, being in an accounting system, putting reports and structures together, and that also led into operations. Like as we built manufacturing components and manufacturing facility. I could do all that. It was the realization. Well, we're in the sales and marketing business. We have to go out there and meet customers and talk to the media, be on radio or TV, or and go to do demos in stores and talking to consumers of why they want to buy our food products. That forced me to go and do those exercises. And I think anything in life, even if it's not your genetic structure or your normal DNA or whatever, you could practice it into being good at it, And so over the last 25 years as an entrepreneur, I've put myself out there quite a bit, and even intensified over the last 3 years, because I was never really on social media before, and over the last 3 years, really since the pandemic, I took to social media, and now it's the same thing, putting yourself out there for the world to see, telling your stories, but that's all think that's all practice and repetition.
Yeah, that's really cool because it doesn't, from the outside looking in, I wouldn't suspect that actually. Like, you definitely put yourself out there a lot for an introvert. And I'm sure a lot of people can really relate to how you felt before. And it's nice to know that, there's a way to get out of there and put yourself out there.
I thought we just had a session today and brought Jake Carlson from Midday Squares, and it was just you got to start. As specific to people that are entrepreneurs, like and maybe specific to LinkedIn because it's a great tool. The whole world, the whole community and industries are all there, and so entrepreneurs have to just start doing, like, if instead of just doom scrolling the social media, which is the worst part of social media, start connecting with people and building community. Tell your story. Tell people what you're working on, and there's two pieces. Like, people think they're it's not going to work for them, or they're too late, and which is not the truth. That's just the lie you tell yourself. And also, people think that their story is not interesting, and I don't think that's the case either, because as humans, we like to hear other people's stories. We learn that way. The better you are at telling your story, probably the better it's going to be received. But again, that's just the thousandth time you do it, you're going to be a lot better at it than the first time. So just start, and if it's posting once a week on social and going in and liking and commenting on some other people's posts and building community around what's important to you, whether that's soccer or that's you're in the food business, or whatever that passion niche is for you, just go there and connect and talk to people about it. And you'd be amazed if you do that for a year and look back at the end of the year, you'll be like, wow, it's come so far. And I've seen that in so many entrepreneurs that I've mentored into that space.
And also, you're very inspiring to like us too. And I feel like we're just starting that journey as well, and getting into this whole like putting ourselves out there and online and building content. It's hard at the beginning when you're getting like 20 likes for everything that you're putting all this heart and soul and effort into, but then it does come around.
I hear you, but I
comes around.
I said this the other day on a podcast, I think, here's how I think about it.
Yeah.
Like, when I go to the gym, I'm going to the gym for me, to go and learn new exercises, do those exercises, get good at them, and get stronger. And I don't care how many people at the gym like me or comment that I'm there. I'm going to go there and do those exercises anyway. And I've been doing that for 2 decades now. Okay. So reprogramming your mind to think about it a little bit different, like you're doing it just to do the exercises. The results will follow when you keep doing the exercises. We know that. It's people get caught up in some people are getting thousands of impressions or thousands of connections, and I only have hundreds or tens or whatever. That's just gonna cause that comparison, and then you get into paralysis because you stop doing. So two of the biggest things that I've learned in my social media journey, one is that, and two is and then maybe specific to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like a 24/7 trade show. And I conduct myself on social media like I would if I was out at a trade show in a convention center. I'm going and introducing myself to people that I don't know. I'm going and talking to my friends. I'm congratulating them on new products that they've just launched, or awards that they've won, or success that they've had. I'm there to support them if they're having struggles and kind of they're processing that. And so just taking the real life aspects to it and using social media as a tool. And that's why, the most common thing I hear is like my content is authentic, and it's because it just reprogrammed my mind to think about like it's happening, and that's what drove me to social media in the first place. When the pandemic happened and the trade shows got canceled, I was like, I got to see my friends and new products and meet new people. I want to be social like that instead of the doom scrolling, which is the worst part of all the socials.
Well, hopefully
that's helpful. Yeah,
it is. And I think another part of a reason that I follow you is because I do want to know who your friends are, because I'm like, I like you. Who else are you cheering on? And then I discover other people that way too. So you're so right that it is like being at a trade show and you going like, oh, have you met Tim? Or like, like that's such a great way to think about it. It's so much more natural.
Yeah, natural. That's all it is. I mean, that's where it should be. And so Yeah, same thing. If we were walking around a trade show and someone walked up, then they would go, oh well, you guys know each other, and it's so you could see that, you could see those same connections on social, but too many people I find think that they have to be a certain way and they need to make a persona, or which comes across as like fake and insincere, and that's not how they act in their real life. So just bring more of what your real life is into the social space, and it's going to be better.
And that's a good skill. I feel like we're starting to figure that out. It's like almost like you have to, I wonder if maybe because my business partner and I, we started our business when we were quite young. So I wonder sometimes if that's what was holding us back a bit, being like, we want to be taken seriously. And then over years, we've kind of been sharing more loosely of like, what we're passionate about. It's important to share all of your passions. And speaking of your passions, before you go, I did want to ask you about your book growth, and also what else is around the corner for Mike, and what are you up to next?
Yeah, lots of things going on. But yeah, my book Grow 12 Unconventional Lessons for Becoming an Unstoppable Entrepreneur launches in March. And really excited about that. Anyone that's interested can just hit me up on LinkedIn or go to mikefata.ca. Have some great, there's a pre-sale of the book happening that happens in the beginning of March, and some bonus material and stuff. And that's a great piece. And there'll be a book tour along with that for anyone that wants to jump onto that, either in one of the cities or virtually.
Tell me where the tour is. Is it in Canada or is it in the US as well?
In both, yeah. The first stop is the book. We're doing a launch event at the Natural Products Expo in Anaheim, California. It's in the second week in March, and then in Vancouver, nice. And then Winnipeg and Montreal and Toronto and New York. So there'll be more about that on my website, and announced through social. So you can just either connect with me on LinkedIn or one of the social platforms, or go and go to my website. And I have a newsletter, The Unstoppable Entrepreneur, that will also have all the details come out when the book launch happens.
So exciting. That's awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you're super busy, and supporting our baby podcast in comparison to yours. We're getting there, and I really appreciate it. And I think a lot of, especially CPG brands, are going to know what to aim for, especially if they're looking to level up with some investments. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just everything grows from doing the reps. So just remember that, and enjoy the journey, enjoy the process part of it, and it could be as big as you or anyone wants it to be in the future. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about
we're manifesting.
Just doing the work.